thinking. Although government don't want to basically discourage the induction of the solar panel and at rooftop and at the commercial industrial level, but we have to see the grid. Unfortunately, our grid is already very fragile. We don't have a digitized grid. We're working on that, but it will take some time. So even without this large scale solar, our grid is not very stable. So we need to do a lot of work before actually getting into that. But at the same time, we need to see that whether there is a debate, there are 10-year preparation of the next 10-year generation expansion plan. So there is a debate whether how much we should go from the rooftop solar or distributed generation, what we call, and how much should come from the utility scale solar, RE projects. So I think that's where we are struggling, that how we can actually manage the grid and we keep this, continue this incentive of the solar. One way is the financial indicator, which government is thinking. Currently, government is buying, our power purchaser is buying at about 26, 27 rupees per unit from these small solar projects, while their cost is like 9 rupees or 8 rupees per unit. So government is thinking, because this policy was given and these rates were set up in 2015 when first time NEPRA and the government announced the policy. At that time, the solar panel prices and the solar equipment prices were 3 times of the current prices. Currently, the prices have dropped so much that the payback period for a system, if I install a 10 or 15 kilowatt system, the payback period is about 1.5 to 2 years. So that is what I call, probably we have created mini IPPs now. We are actually trying to reduce the return on equity and the profits of the large IPPs, but these are the small IPPs where return is like 40-50%. So that is one aspect. Second, we are doing in terms of these looking at the global issues of blackouts. Government is also doing a study that what is the maximum rooftop solar or distributed generation which should come to the grid. So we'll, in the next couple of months, we'll do that exercise also. But in terms of CPEC phase 2, we have done a lot in the infrastructure, as has been said. I think now we need to focus firstly the internal factors, that how we can align our policies, our planning with the implementation phase. Even Chinese, I think Mustafa can second me. Now they say that Pakistani, when they come, they talk very beautifully, they speak very beautifully, but they don't have any document, they don't have any paper, they don't have any implementation plan. They don't say in official meeting, but this is outside the meeting. They really say this. So we need to actually correct this in order. And second phase, I think the word is the green technology, green energy. We should focus on that. But again, the model should be set right. Previously, what we have done, although as I said, there was a planning behind that how much energy we can sell and what should be the right price, but we have gone totally wrong because we have not been able to manage the demand side, and we're not able to generate the demand and sale for the electricity. Now I think the model needs review, that what should be model where the risk is not totally coming to the government or to the power purchaser. There should be sharing of the risk if the demand is not generated. So that is, I think, where we are also working, and STPI and Pak China Institute, they are also working. Then the next phase again is the AI and the technology. I think that is IT technology. That's where should be working. The other day I was at LUMS and there was a lot of talk about the Bitcoin mining and how we can supply them powered for the Bitcoin mining, which is, I think, a very great area to bring investment in Pakistan. But again, the challenge is because we are stuck up with the capacity payments and the large power plants, they expect that we should be giving them power about 3 to 3.2 cents per unit, which is practically impossible for us, because our pool price is like, if we look at about 10 cents, 11 cents, that is our average pool price. So I think these are the challenges we should work, and we should learn from China, because they have done in great way. They have faced the same problem initially. So we can learn from them. We have made a expert group with China. Actually, they will review and suggest what measures could be taken to improve the Pakistan power sector, the issues we are facing. So we're working with them, but there is a lot of work which need to be done actually to take the CPEC phase 2 to take it forward, and learning from the previous experiences which we have. So I stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shahjahan Sahab. You very aptly mentioned the internal factors. Obviously, we need this integration, planning and implementation. Secondly, maybe energy sector can be integrated with the economy in a very, I mean, more effective sort of way. You rightly mentioned that we need investments into our transmission systems. We need to plan better for incorporating, integrating more variable renewable energy sources. With your notion, I just this thing came into my mind that National Energy Commission of China, they recently ran a simulation exercise where they sort of ran a simulation to avoid blackout in their eastern region. And eastern region of China is 3 times bigger than Pakistan. They used AI to solve that blackout issue, and they AI just took 30 seconds to solve this blackout. So maybe integration of AI, that is a one way forward, but it will require more investments into transmission system. We have previously invested more in building our capacity, electricity capacity, generation capacity. So transmission side investment is the key. Lastly, you mentioned that we need to bring more industrial demand to the grid, which is the key for Pakistan. Right now, there are only 1% of total electricity consumers. Those are industrial consumers, but those consumers consume around 22% of total electricity. So if we increase this number from 1 to 2, electricity consumption will increase. And as Dr. Solari mentioned, that now the trade is changing. There is climate smart trade. CBAM is coming. So we need to bring more renewable to the fold. With this, before I go to Excellency Ambassador Moin Saab, let me bring in Ambassador Nagmana to the discussion. Mr. Nagmana, how do you think that the current geopolitical dimensions, dynamics, particularly the changing relationship between China and USA, and Pakistan planning to balance between USA relationships and China relationships, how do you think that the greening BRI or the role of China could be, particularly from the lens that CPEC 2.0 and decarbonization agenda is the key priorities? So over to you.
Well, thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dr. Abid Suleri, my fellow panelists, and my dear friend Muin from China. Assalamu alaikum. A very good morning or good afternoon in China. And ni hao to our Chinese friends who might be following us online. Now, to begin with, I am no energy expert. And I was last night told to speak on the global green energy politics. In other words, what you just explained in simpler words. So I was thinking a little bit last night, and being a non-technical person, and I'm absolutely no expert, I was trying to deconstruct the debate, and I will try and present what I have understood from it, and how Pakistan is impacted by this. What are the challenges? What are the difficulties? How can we overcome these difficulties? Because with difficulties, there are also opportunities. Particularly, we need to see how or which way the Pakistan-China cooperation needs to go for green energy transition and for securing the national interests of both the countries in a very, very volatile world. So I'll try and be as precise as possible and as short as possible, but I hope I have about, 10 minutes? Does that get 10 minutes? Okay.
7 minutes.
Well, and now you are really pushing it, On a last minute topic, you want me? Okay. Well, as I said, I'm not an expert, so I'm going to try and see what I can do. Well, as we all know, we face a critical moment in our collective journey towards sustainable development. The green transition is no longer an option. Oh, sorry, these are my glasses. Yes. The green transition is no longer optional, but imperative for our shared future, offering immense opportunities for innovation and growth if we can correctly identify impediments and courageously carve out strategies and pathways to overcome these impediments. The contours of global green energy politics are shaped by a complex interplay of geopolitical competition, economic interest, technological innovation, and climate imperatives. The main contours of geopolitical shifts and energy transition are very clearly visible. Firstly, in decline of fossil fuel, traditional oil and gas, Saudi Arabia, Russia, Iran face declining leverage as renewables and electrification reduce demand for hydrocarbons. Secondly, we see it clearly in the rise of critical mineral politics. Lithium, cobalt, rare earths, and these are, as we all know, controlled by China, Australia, Congo, and Chile. These are the new oil in green tech, leading to supply chain rivalries. Thirdly, somebody also mentioned it in their presentation. Thirdly, in China's dominance, China now controls 80% of solar panel production, 60% of wind turbines, and refines most critical minerals. Western nations seek to de-risk, but struggle to match China's scale. Fourthly, we very clearly see it in the US and EU industrial policy, Inflation Reduction Act, and European Green Deal subsidizes domestic clean energy to counter China, risking trade tensions. Another important element is climate diplomacy and north-south divides that we heard in the introduction as well. Developed nations pledge $100 billion a year to help global South transition, but delivery lags, fueling distrust. India, Africa, and Latin America demand a fossil fuel phase out and align with their development needs. India's, for example, net zero target, meeting it by 2070. This evokes the question of just transition, which also was mentioned this morning. Then there is the loss and damage fund issues established in COP27, but underfunded, reflecting tensions over historical emissions responsibility. Energy security and green nationalism is another angle that needs very deep reflection. Europe's post-Ukraine pivot accelerated renewables rollout, which include wind, solar, hydrogen to replace Russian gas, but faces backlash over costs. US energy hybrid strategy aims to expand renewables while backing LNG exports as a bridge fuel, drawing criticism from climate activists. This global politics around energy in the has given rise to what is a new terminology in global energy politics, which is resource nationalism. Indonesia bans nickel exports to boost domestic EV battery industry. Similar moves are seen in Latin America for lithium and Africa for cobalt. There is a lesson in this for Pakistan. I think we should be very, very careful while we are inviting investors and making contracts where our precious mines and minerals are concerned, because this is the energy source of the future, and they will play a very important role in the economy transition from traditional economy into green economy. Then there is also the issue of technical and financial competition, which is now raging. Battery and storage warehouses are increasing. China leads in batteries, while US and EU invest in alternatives like sodium ion, solid state. There is also the hydrogen rivalry. Green hydrogen projects in EU, Australia, and Middle East could reshape future energy trade. And we need to take cognizance of that, and we need to prepare Pakistan to ensure and build a cooperation around these new challenges which are emerging with China to ensure that we make this green transition without massive losses to our national interest. Again, a new kind of tax other than the Trump tariffs is also in the play in this global energy politics. And this is carbon border taxes, which are a serious issue warranting caution. EU CBAM and US proposals penalize high carbon imports, angering developing exporters of steel and cement. All this is leading to emerging alliances and frictions. US-China rivalry has led to trade restrictions on solar panels, EVs, and batteries. The G77 plus China push for tech transfer and debt relief to enable green transitions. On the other hand, OPEC plus resistance is seeing Saudi Arabia and UAE diversify into renewables, but lobby against a rapid fossil fuel phase out. Ideological and corporate influences cannot be overemphasized where global climate politics is concerned. Climate populism is on top of the list. Right-wing parties in Europe oppose costly green policies while progressives push for faster transitions. Corporate powers like Big Oil, Shell, BP invest in renewables but faces accusations of green washing. So what are the key takeaways from this complicated and interlinked situation of that the world is facing to transition from traditional energy to green energy and on to sustainable development? And Pakistan needs to really focus on these takeaways because we are the least polluting country, but the most affected and also economically the poorest. So we really need to focus what the politics is and find a way out. In this interlinked situation, there are winners. And the winners are China, because they have tech dominance, EU, that has policy leadership, US, that has subsidized innovation. There are losers like petrostates, slow to diversify. Russia, Venezuela are examples. Global South nations lacking investment, where we also fall. This is a category. And then there are, of course, wildcards, which is breakthroughs in fusion, advanced nuclear or carbon capture, which could again reshape the entire global energy transition debate and badly affect the southern countries or developing countries. The green energy transition is not just about climate, it's a recording of global power with the new dependencies, conflicts, and opportunities emerging. Pakistan is significantly affected by global energy politics due to its heavy reliance on energy imports, geopolitical positioning, and economic vulnerabilities. Here's how global energy dynamics impacts Pakistan and how it can be, how we can safeguard our own national interest. First is dependence on energy imports. Pakistan imports oil, gas, and LNG to meet energy needs, making it vulnerable to price shocks, LNG shortages. Europe's shift away from Russia, gas-intensified competition raising costs for Pakistan. Second is geopolitical pressure. US-China rivalry, Pakistan's reliance on Chinese investments in CPEC, coal, and other pipeline projects face very serious scrutiny from the West. Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline is also faced with US sanctions limiting Pakistan's energy diversification. Third, climate change and energy transition, global push for renewable pressures Pakistan to shift from coal. Third coal project faces environmental criticism. We also face loss of financing for fossil fuel projects as Western institutions favor green energy. Fourth is debt and economic strain. High energy import bills worsen current account deficit and currency depreciation. Circular debt that we have now mentioned earlier in the power sector is roughly about $14 billion, is exacerbated by costly fuel-based power generation. And finally, and fifthly, is regional energy dynamics. Tapi pipeline faces delay due to Afghanistan's instability, competition with India for energy resources. For example, energy contracts, Central Asian gas are also right now held back because of Afghanistan and because we cannot directly access the gas pipelines from Central Asia, where gas is, of course, in excess. So how Pakistan can protect its energy interests? Diversify energy sources, accelerate renewables, expand solar. If it is not rooftop solars, then we need to have more government-run solar parks, which every country in the world is now resorting to, instead of just making life absolutely difficult for people like me who have invested in solar panels. And hydropower. There are Mir Bhasha Dam and other things. Local coal utilization instead of using the facilities at for importing first coal from Australia and then producing electricity, because we all know that third coal has 40% sulfur, though it may be the second largest coal reserves, but they're low quality coal reserves with high sulfur content and high moisture content. Strengthen energy diplomacy, negotiate long-term LNG oil contracts with Qatar, Russia, and Central Asia to secure stable prices. Revive Iran-Pakistan pipeline by seeking sanctions waiver or border trade with Iran. Explore joint regional energy grid, CASA 1000 for Central Asian hydropower, for example. Improve energy infrastructure, upgrade transmission lines to reduce losses, expand LNG, reform your economic policy, encourage private investment, push for Chinese private sector investment in renewables, and not only bilaterally, but getting into projects on a regional basis, because that will cut the risk factor for China, both security risk and economic risk. Then climate financing and green transition is the path to follow. Seek global climate funds to finance renewable projects, develop hydrogen and battery storage for future energy security. And there are many other recommendations. I'll leave the paper with you. But in conclusion, I would like to say that Pakistan must reduce import dependency, diversify energy resources, and strengthen regional partnerships to navigate global energy politics. Strategic reforms, infrastructure upgrades, and smart diplomacy can only help secure its energy future among very rapidly shifting global dynamics. Leveraging technological advancement to drive circular economy and sustainable development, international cooperation, Pakistan needs to strengthen Pakistan-China collaboration on green initiative, policy, and regulatory frameworks. And we need to develop, and that is for my colleague from the Ministry of Environment, and that is transitioning to a green economy. It is undoubtedly filled with challenges, but there are immense opportunity as well. explore economic transformation pathways from resource dependence to knowledge-driven economies, investment in strategies and finance mechanisms for green initiative, and transition and implementation of these policies, exploring diverse transition pathways to a green economy from policy, business, finance, and technological perspective, and not in isolation in the ministries and government departments with policies on paper, because they will really not work. In fact, I should have invited SDPI to this. It's ongoing. It started the day before yesterday. Yesterday, the first green energy transition summit between China and COMSTEC, which is, of course, OIC countries, in which it was debated how China can join hands with the OIC countries, particularly spearheaded by Pakistan, in order to make that energy transition. And I will end by one point that I heard yesterday. As I said, I'm not an expert, but it was of great interest to me. And that was that there is now an increasingly booming carbon trade market. We talk about it, but do we have any agreements with any countries that have established these carbon markets? So Singapore, for example, is a very fast emerging carbon market. China is another smart carbon trading market. And there is no fixed price for carbon yet, because it hasn't really been refined and reached that stage where there can be a fixed price for carbon trading, like we have in oil and gold. Therefore, in order to look at this energy transition, one last sentence, in order to make that transition from traditional energy to green energy, and to be able to face the challenges of this very complex global energy politics, we need to join hands with China and sit down and have long-term projects outside the CPEC, and hand over the leadership for these to the private sector in the region and to both countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Nugmana. Very, very articulate, very productive 7 minutes of my life. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You mentioned debt and economic stress. That is very important for the case of Pakistan. Critical minerals, and particularly the geopolitics around it, the hydrogen rivalry, that would be a future topic, and economies would be based on it. And CBAM, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, technology transfer, that would be the key in future as well. Thank you so much for highlighting the geopolitics. Pakistan needs to learn some lessons for these upcoming, I'm not say threats, but still a very worrying sort of signs. Pakistan needs to learn lessons, which brings us to Excellency Ambassador Moin Saab. Sir, under CPEC 2.0, particularly keeping the sustainability agenda in focus, what are different lessons that you see Pakistan should learn in terms of energy cooperation, and that can guide Pakistan approach that can balance Pakistan's environmental requirements, energy and economic requirements? Sir, over to you.
Thank you so much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dr. Abid Suleri, my dear colleague, senior colleague, Ambassador Nugmana Hashmi, Mr. Shahjahan Mirza, distinguished participants, Assalamu alaikum and greetings from China. First of all, my gratitude to Dr. Abid Suleri, the Institute, the Green CPEC Alliance for organizing this very important conference and inviting me to speak on this very timely initiative. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of my dear friend and senior colleague, Dr. Hamid Sharif as well, and Mr. Mustafa. And congratulations to Mustafa for this being his appointment as an advisor to the Ministry of Ecology in China. Very important, I think, comprehensive statements made by Ambassador Hashmi and Mr. Shah Jahan, and I'll see what value can I add to the discussions. Let me first comment the concept paper, which was prepared by the institute, which was quite as a backgrounder to the conference, which was I think very comprehensive, containing the current developments in Pakistan, China, under CPEC, useful statistics about the clean energy sector, the challenges and the opportunities, and the importance of developing of SEZs. I think these are important themes for us speakers and panelists who will come later. Let me begin, dear friends, by stating a fact and then expressing a hope. We saw over $25 billion investment in the energy sector, making it the core sector of CPEC Phase 1, and it was also alluded to by Mr. Shah Jahan Mirza. So this is an undisputable fact, and we all know that how critical this investment was at the time when the country was facing acute shortage energy, and also for development of and growth of our industrial sector. Now it is my hope that CPEC 2.0 will have a similar focus and investments when it comes to the clean and green energy sector. Ambassador Narmana Hashmi would agree. She knows that when China and Pakistan were discussing a framework for CPEC 2.0, we had agreed to launch a number of corridors called health, industry, trade, digital, and green corridors. And later these were crystallized into corridor of growth, corridor of livelihood, innovation corridor, green corridor, and open corridor. In all these new corridors, the importance of growth, innovation, and green development was the common theme. When Pakistan participated in the BRI conference in October 2023, marking the 10th anniversary of BRI and as well as CPEC, President Xi at that occasion had made a very important and landmark speech, which became very popular and was quoted very widely. So let me quote some portions from his speech relevant to our discussion today. He said that the important guidelines and principles for the high quality development of Belt and Road cooperation include the principle of planning together, building together, and benefiting together. The philosophy of open, green, and clean cooperation, and the goal of pursuing high standard, people-centered, and sustainable cooperation. Then later mentioning about hydro, wind, and solar energy-based plants, power plants, and the smart and interconnected power transmission networks, which have helped the developing countries in achieving green and low carbon development. President Xi interestingly mentioned that these projects have become the oasis and lighthouse for sustainable development. So, dear friends, let us aim that in CPEC Phase 2, we could bring a new focus or a renewed strategic approach, which was mentioned in the concept note, to the green energy sector, making it the oasis and lighthouse of Pakistan's own sustainable development. Now, this is easier said than done because earlier speakers, especially Mr. Shah Jahan, has also told us the bottlenecks and the challenges that we are facing in Pakistan, from financing to grid stability. So, of course, it requires a very sincere and sustained effort, which should include policy support, targeted reforms, attractive regulatory framework, infrastructure development, and capacity building. Something which caught my attention in the concept note, where it mentions that Pakistan risked falling behind its regional peers, which offer greater predictability, better infrastructure, and regulatory clarity. Well, while I fully tend to agree with this assertion, but yet at the same time, I also believe that Pakistan has the resources, both human and natural, the basic infrastructure, and some policy framework which can be improved and further refined to benefit from the new trends and technologies. So what should be the way forward? Let me venture and give some of my my few humble recommendations. Firstly, as earlier mentioned also, that we must have a policy predictability and regulatory clarity. Policies related to green technologies, transition to a green economy should be made more attractive, easier, so that the investors should have the confidence and to come to Pakistan and invest in these sectors. Secondly, we must fast track the operationalization of the new corridors between China and Pakistan, especially the growth, innovation, and green corridors, which are mutually inclusive corridors and could provide a framework for attracting green financing from Chinese institutions like AIB or other ICBC and NDB, and investments from Chinese companies as well. The key remain, and Mr. Hamid Sharif, I think, would agree with me, because I have learned a lot from him also when he was working in AIB, that Pakistan's Achilles heel, or the weakest point, is our project development. We should make an effort in making good projects, financially, economically viable, which will enable the financial institutions to fund, or the Chinese companies and investors to come and invest in Pakistan. Secondly, I think we need to develop an action plan for the implementation of China-Pakistan Partnership Agreement on GDI. Most of you may not know that Pakistan was the first country to become the partner country of President Xi's Global Development Initiative. This agreement, among other things, provides for cooperation on green development, agriculture modernization, climate action. So I think this time has come that we should, like CPEC, we should also crystallize our cooperation under GDI framework. Fourthly, very important, that we need to develop a very comprehensive framework and an action plan for transitioning to green energy. Like earlier, I said that it is easier said than done. So many things have to be done. We need to have, number one, under this framework, an indigenous production of related technologies, solar panels, inverters, batteries, cable, and so forth, related equipment. Facilitate strategic partnership with Chinese companies which are willing to do those partnerships, JVs, and promote Made in Pakistan brand, not only to cater for the local needs, but also for exports to the region. But in order to encourage local manufacturing, we have to look at our import taxes and tariffs structure also. We have to discourage, for example, imports on solar panels, gradual application of reduction of these import duties, because as we noted in the concept note, in the last 1.5 years, 22 gigawatt of solar panels were imported into the country. Just now look at, if we had invested in our country and had local manufacturing of this 22 gigawatt of solar panels, what economic benefits would have been accrued to our country? Job creation, transfer of technology, export earnings. So we must, I think, go into overdrive, I would say, a comprehensive policy of promoting indigenous manufacturing. Then, of course, very important point is about transmission lines, grid stability. Without having an infrastructure of transmission lines, no policy of expanding our energy footprint, either renewable, traditional, or green, would be able to succeed. So a major investment and focus on grid stability. And of course, then we go into promoting green technology, power plants, solar power plants, when we need to streamline our processes, government processes, which are very cumbersome at this stage. take very long. Gestation period of a project is very long. We have to make them effective and easier for the investors. Finally, an area which is very close to my heart and was also very comprehensively addressed in the concept paper is about the special economic zones. If we have to unlock our economic potential, we have to develop industrial parks and special economic zones, not on the real estate model that we are following in Pakistan, but on sound business principles. The location has to be selected very carefully. Then we should follow a cluster approach. For example, an SEZ focused on green technology, solar panel, EVs, charging station, smart agriculture, sustainable material, and so forth, and create a local value chain and a complete ecosystem which position Pakistan as a hub of green technologies in the region. Those who have lived in China, they know that China's economic success is greatly attributed to its SEZs, industrial and technology parks, which are spread all over the country. In this place where I'm living in Suzhou, it is one of the most famous China-Singapore industrial park, one of the earliest one of the most successful one. In this one district of this city, where I'm sitting here, 500 German companies have invested in their manufacturing facilities here. Just one country in just one small district. So the scope and scale of foreign investment which have come through these SEZs into China has been a great contributor to Chinese economic miracle. We should be learning from this success story. And I agree with Mr. Shahjahan when he mentioned about these SEZs which were under CPEC. Unfortunately, not a single one has been developed in a very comprehensive manner, in a manner that could attract foreign investors. Finally, my few observations on the external challenges that have been going on. I think since our independence, we have been told that Pakistan has faced with serious.
Let me invite Mr. Mustafa Haider Sayed for his intervention on what sort of a B2B landscape that Pakistan requires right now to build investors' confidence, particularly from a focus point of, as your advisor to Ministry of Environment and Ecology on Green BRI. So your intervention, over to you.
Thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Good morning. Firstly, I'm very privileged to be here. Thank you to SDPI for organizing this dialogue and this stimulating conversation. I'd like to reference the presence of Mr. Hamid Sharif Saab, who's a asset of Pakistan, has held very senior positions in Beijing, knows China very well, and is also a family friend, and great to see you, sir. And is Zubairi Saab, who's a former MD of PPIB and a guiding light on hydro and clean energy in Pakistan. And Mr. Zishan Saab. I would like to, before we dive into the B2B, to give an overview on how this transition I see taking place and how realistic is the conversation that we are having here. I think that firstly, it's very important to have a head on the ground and have baby steps, realistic baby steps, which are achievable, which are doable. Because as Shahjahan Mirza Saab and some of our colleagues said, that we a lot of the times make a pie in the sky. And then we talk about the pie in the sky, we raise expectations of investors, of other countries, and then we are unable to follow through with that pie in the sky. And then when we are unable to follow through with that pie in the sky, then we don't know what to do. And then we take drastic measures that affects us, that affects investors, that affects our relationships internationally. So I think one example that I would like to begin with is, with the permission of Zubairi Saab, is the project of Kohala. Early harvest project, listed, signed, agreed, from both sides, and National Development Reform Commission of China and the Ministry of Planning and Development from Pakistan in the first phase of the 10 years of CPEC. Khalid Saab, I will come to the second phase after finalizing the first phase, if you allow. But these will be even better 7 minutes of your life than the earlier one. I'll guarantee you that.
So I have started some sort of a competition now.
Yes, yeah. Healthy competition. So Kohala was agreed. It's a very big investor, China Three Gorges Corporation. It started Karot before CPEC was initiated. And then Karot was later put in the CPEC basket. So it was, it took that early bird risk, and dive right into the energy landscape of Pakistan. And now that Kohala project is not being followed through by the government of Pakistan. So when we will commit to foreign investors, whether it's in CPEC framework or whether any other framework, we have multiple development partners, Middle Eastern countries, Western countries. But once we commit at a sovereign level, and then we don't follow it through because we say, oh, we have enough electricity, that is our problem. That's not their problem. Because it's not our problem that it's not their problem that we didn't do our feasibility at that time properly, that what will be our energy requirement. So when Shahjahan Mirza Saab says, house in order, I fully agree with him. We have to have extensive bankable feasibilities, then do projects which put our foreign exchange reserves, our balance of payments on the brink. Because these are not our house gardening projects that we like something somewhere in another country and we say, yaar, ye bhi laga lete. This is putting our country, our fiscal profile, our fiscal health at risk. So this is very, very important. And I think that this is something that we really need to build capacity on within the government, whether we outsource to consulting companies, that when we identify a project, there should be a follow-up back lead process of feasibilities, data analysis, third-party verification before we proceed with projects. I think this is critical. And when we talk about new projects, I think it's very important that the future project should be on a complete commercial BOT basis. This is critical, sir. Sovereign agreements, capacity payments, that even if and this is for any company, that if a project is not producing energy and we are paying capacity payments, is something that should have been negotiated at the very outset with NEPRA, by NEPRA, and rather than realizing after 15 years, this is not, we don't want to do this. We should have with all investors commercial contracts on BOT, and it should be completely market-based on market dynamics. I think this is on the outset that Pakistan needs to understand and agree, and I think SIFC is doing a great job, but it has to be commercial contracts, purely commercial. I think that era of sovereign guarantees is now over, and frankly speaking, we are in no position to give sovereign guarantees anymore. Right? This is my understanding and opinion. And before we go to Clean Energy Corporation, I want to talk about the power plants which have been invested here in Pakistan by China. And these are very successful power plants, including the coal-fired power plants. But I think that now, particularly the ASEAN countries, Indonesia and Vietnam led transition, who are the fastest, if we see in the Just Energy Partnership, in the clean energy transition. We see that, for example, 660 megawatt Cirebon power plant, it's a coal-fired power plant, will be completely phased out by 2035. And this power plant will be replaced by a fusion, a mix of solar, wind, and waste to energy. So, and there is a very solid and definitive commitment of the replacement and substitution, because if it is not substituted immediately, there will be a huge loss of jobs and economic growth, because there'll be huge gaping hole in the energy landscape. So simultaneously, they've started replacing it. So it's a process. It's not an overnight switch on and off switch. It's a process that they've started. And by 2035, this huge 660 megawatt power plant will be phased out. And similarly, Philippines is also following certain projects in phasing out. But Cirebon is a great example. It's in a very advanced stage. And I think Pakistan needs to understand that and inculcate that in its energy policy. I think that we have to, if for the coal mix that we have, it has to be, of course, we have to have an energy mix. And like Abid Suleri Saab gave a good example of Spain and Portugal that had complete blackout because of over-reliance in solar. Of course, we will have some fossil fuel, and I think that should be local fossil fuel, realistically speaking. And imported coal, as of now, for us, doesn't really make sense. And at that time, Amit Saab, it was a decision because it was, I believe, urgent. It was the most fastest up and running power plants that were, particularly with the Port Qasim power plant and others. And at that time, it made sense to the leadership of our country, and the Chinese were ready for it. But now we have to adapt, we have to be resilient, and we need to mold to the new dynamics. So fiscally, it's not sustainable for us. And environmentally, it's also not sustainable for us. So we need to have a fast approach where tariffs, investor confidence, and investors are aligned at an efficient and fast pace. But the current business as usual approach is not working. Investor comes, then NEPRA will sit on it for 6 months. There'll be hearings and hearings and hearings. Till that tariff is given, maybe they'll go to Cambodia or Bangladesh to invest. So I think that we need to have a shock therapy when we talk about renewable projects, where the regulator, the investor, and the investment absorption mechanism, whether it's SIFC or anything else, or the Alternative Energy Development Board, which is also represented by Shahjahan Saab, is under one window mechanism, which can immediately absorb and capture investor interest. Because if we go and the business as usual approach for this, and if we continue giving tariffs which are regionally not competitive, then we will still be sitting here and talking about 10 years from now how to capture renewable interest. And the world is moving on. So the time is not stopping for us. I also want to mention that a lot of philanthropic organizations are taking a very important role in financing clean energy initiatives. And Coal to Clean Credit Initiative, which is refinancing the clean transition of a 246 megawatt coal power project in Philippines by the Rockefeller Foundation, is one of the key projects in phasing out in Philippines. And I think we need to be reaching out to these organizations which are investing hard equity and money for larger good, because this is not necessarily and always profitable. So to establish a business case is ideal to that you can make money from phasing out coal. That's the ideal scenario. But a lot of times that business case is not as evident. So there are a lot of big funds and philanthropic organizations which are funding and supporting global South countries. And I think we should proactively be engaging with them. We should be doing outreach with them. Government should be the power plants that are planning on this transition should be doing that. And I think that my last point would be that it's very important that when we talk about phase 2 of CPEC, and I think on the outset, when we talk about phase 2, and Shahjahan Mirza Saab said Mustafa will add his 2 cents on what the Chinese are saying. Look, there cannot be any business in any place if the lives of those people are not secure. I think it's very, very simple. And For example, we are talking about CPEC for the past 2 hours. They're very senior people here, but we see that it's only Pakistanis in this room. So I think that needs to change. It has to be the basic element of security, and insurance of lives is something that has been that we have been dropping the ball on in the past year and a half, and that needs to change. So investors will only come if they think they're secure. And right now, they are only able to do projects, unfortunately, in Islamabad and Punjab. The NOCs and bulletproof vehicles are required to go anywhere else. That's the fact. I think the second phase has to have export-led projects, which are environmentally sustainable and financially sustainable. I think the time for very big ticket items, for those glossy projects, is something which is a luxury that countries with decent fiscal health have, which have the ability to take on more debt. We do not have that luxury at the moment. So, and we have actually been working, SDP has been a very close partner in this, in the Greening CPEC, which I founded with Christoph, who's in Griffith, and SDPI as well. And we've been doing a lot of work, and we have made a SEZ report, which will be published in the coming weeks, on green SEZ reports, which we've done with the Peking University professors and some China Energy Administration, National Energy Administration of China has also contributed to it. It's a very unique report. And we will be sharing that of how we can have green SEZ report successfully, which can be a small model for other SEZs. Rather than announcing multiple SEZs, and I don't know how much any of those SEZs are exporting, I think we need to start small and realistically. And that investment can be now, because of this tariff war that is happening. All of the ASEAN countries have been awarded huge tariffs by the United States because Chinese had relocated to Vietnam, to Thailand, to Indonesia, and they had successfully given their business case to Chinese investors, and they had succeeded with that, and which is why they've been given these tariffs. Pakistan is still not at a very big receiving end of those tariffs, and we still have an opportunity to get some of those factories, which cannot operate from the ASEAN countries anymore because of the tariffs, to come here. So I think this is the golden opportunity for SEZs, that the time is now because of this tariff war. So every crisis has an opportunity. This is the opportunity for Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mustafa Saab. Your one quote is resonating in my mind. Let's make money out of green transition. Yeah, that's, I think, is the way forward. We need to align economy, energy, and these environmental implications and commitments. To conclude the session, I would request Hamid Sharif Saab, sir, what is the way forward? What are the recommendations that we need to incorporate if we want to have this integration of economy, energy?
Do you want me to continue? Because I think you're over time.
No, please. You can come on.
Frankly, look, I have never been on a panel in which 3 of the panelists disappear.
So, our apologies. You can come on the podium as well, sir. Please.
This is not how conferences are conducted.
Sure. Well noted, sir. Very well noted. We will keep in mind, and you can continue, sir.
I've been asked to speak on integrating green energy into Pakistan's special economic zones, and what are the lessons from China, and what are the pathways to de-risk investment. First of all, let's deal with the elephant in the room. This country lacks security, as Mustafa just mentioned. Every few years is before the IMF, and no prime minister goes beyond 22, 23, 3 months, 36 months at the best. Why would anybody invest in Pakistan? Even our Chinese friends, given what they have suffered in terms of not being paid for what was promised to them, why should they continue to invest in Pakistan? I think these are fundamental issues we have to deal with, and come out of this cloud cuckoo land and think that, we can be Vietnam or Indonesia or Philippines. No, we can't. In the case of Vietnam, there's political stability. When a contract is signed, it will be honored. In our case, contracts are signed and slimy bureaucrats and politicians do not honor them. So why should I invest in Pakistan? And I'm not saying that. There are any number of international arbitration decisions by organizations like ICSID. You have the Ricodic case in front of you, where a matter which I met one of the lawyers back in 2015 for Ricodic, the matter could have been settled for about 250, 300 million. We did not settle. We unreasonably fought, and we were lumped with damages of $9 billion against us, which was about the size of our foreign exchange reserves. Now, that is the situation we're facing. And I think I will go on to talk about how to learn from China, but I really want to emphasize that all of what I'm going to say cannot work, will not work, unless the issues of security, macroeconomic stability, and political stability, unless these issues are solved. Without this, no one is going to invest. Even our own people are not investing. I know people in Karachi and others who are taking their money abroad. And there is a brain drain. We have to admit that. There is a brain drain. Young, talented people are no longer staying in Pakistan. So unless these issues are solved, I think what I'm going to say will not work. So I will turn to China. But in the case of China, they had addressed all the things I speak about. I've traveled to about 26 provinces across China. They're all peaceful. I've never felt uneasy. My wife can go out in Beijing, or could go out when we were living there at midnight, and I was not worried that she would be threatened. So that is the sort of atmosphere we need to create if we are serious that there should be investment and development in this country. Without those prerequisites, we will be wasting our time. Now let me turn to what we can in fact learn from China. One is policy certainty. Again, that is related to the issues I've spoken about, that contracts will be honored. It's a shame that the Quran teaches us that, oh, believers, honor your contracts. It doesn't say, don't honor them if you've entered bad ones. No, it doesn't say that. You honor your contracts even if you've written a bad one. And then you have accountability as why you wrote a bad contract, and make sure next time you don't write a bad contract. You do not break contracts. That is a fundamental human value and something which our own teachings emphasize. But so we need to actually do that. Secondly, I think if you look at China very successfully co-located SEZs with renewable energy projects. So when we're thinking about SEZs, how do we connect them to renewable projects? Solar parks, wind parks, smart grids, etc., so that there is reliable and low-cost power to make the industries in these SEZs competitive. That's extremely important. And of course, we need PPPs, public-private partnerships. This is what China did to bring renewable energy into the mix. And that was further backed by state-backed loans, green bonds. In the case of Pakistan, I beg to differ with you, Mustafa. Sure, we may not be in a position to give sovereign guarantees, but without sovereign guarantees, no one's going to invest in Pakistan. It's just not going to happen. And in fact, our sovereign guarantee will have to be backed by another guarantee. And I think the way forward, and I give you the example of Egypt. In Egypt, there is one of the largest solar parks in Africa. It's called the Banban project. They first bid it out without any multilateral support, and the tariff was about 16 cents per unit. They then brought the EBRD and IFC in, and the tariff went down to about 10. And after ban had been implemented, phase 2 tariffs dropped to 5. Because what had happened in the meantime was that IFC, EBRD, and AIB, as a latecomer, we also joined the project when I was there. We were able to bring the tariff down because capital wants surety, right? They're able to negotiate better terms. So what we will need to do is to de-risk these projects. And by the way, we talk about de-risking as if there's something new. Many people are young here, and in the early 90s, you were probably, I don't know, you still in your shorts or schools or whatever. But I worked on the second IPP in Pakistan, the Kabirwala, which later became the Fauji Kabirwala project. And, Pakistan was the leader in the 90s. Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Bangladesh, India all copied Pakistan's contracts in hub. Our tragedy was we never moved beyond hub. In fact, I was shocked when I started to read the contracts for the IPPs in 2014, the coal ones. They are terrible contracts. We wrote better contracts in the 90s. Someday there will have to be accountability in this country as to how we managed to replicate and even worsen the contracts which we had in the 90s. And that has cost this country and 2 or 3 generations a huge setback. Absolutely huge setback, because our energy sector is at the center of development. And we have killed that sector because of poor policies. It's either incompetence or it's outright corruption. And we saw that recently there was this attempt to renegotiate, but no one talks about accountability. How did we get here? How are we going to learn the lessons so we do not repeat these lessons again? Unless we have that sort of an exercise, it is pointless to keep on having this, conferences like this where everybody thinks everything is okay. Everything is not okay. There is a very, very serious number of issues which have to be addressed. So we did learn to de-risk. Today, because we have a worse record than in the 90s, there is no way the private sector is going to come in and invest in the absence of sovereign guarantees, and sovereign guarantees further backed by multilateral development guarantees, like in the Ban project. So getting partial risk guarantees from the likes of AIB, I say AIB in this case because we're talking about Chinese investment. And I think AIB would, out of all the MDBs, be favorably disposed to issue a partial risk guarantee to bring in Chinese investment. We also need to think about what may be the lessons we need to learn. Like, there's obviously a currency risk. So how can we manage that? Well, maybe have RMB contracts. We have a swap agreement with China. How can that be used to bring into to give the Chinese assurance that they will get paid? Maybe we need to think about new innovative ideas, like we have a special fund into which CPPA or whoever is the power purchaser has an escrow account, maybe with a state bank, to give assurance to investors that, look, you will get paid from this escrow account. I believe India's Reserve Bank did something like that. Now, there are lessons out there from which we can learn. Also, we need to think about, do we need to allow investors to repatriate all profits from day one, which is what we have been foolishly doing? China didn't allow it. Vietnam didn't allow it. What they say is, look, you can eventually take your money out, but in the first 3 years, you will not take out 30%. You will reinvest it into our priority sectors. And if you do that, we'll give you a tax break. So rather than paying, say, 30% corporate tax, we'll only charge you 15%. We need these sorts of conversations. Sadly, again, we keep on hearing about FBR reform. You can't have the tax collector and also making the tax policy. It's a huge issue. I know I'm I know I'm loading more issues onto the topic, but these are issues which have to be solved. And in the absence of solving those, we will be in the mess, and perhaps in a worse mess than we are now. So we need to think about what are the sort of policy decisions around repatriation of capital, reinvestment of profits, which can help both the investor, because it should be a win-win situation. We're not here to punish the investor. We have to make the investor happy. I think I forget who it was, but one of the US Treasury Secretary, I think in the Nixon era, said that, it's very difficult to attract capital. But when you do it, you better treat it well. Because if you don't, it's going to run away. And Mr. Trump is finding that out. Look at the flight of capital out of US in the last 100 days, and the effect of that on the bond markets and the value of the dollar. So you have to treat capital well. We unfortunately have this Indian mentality. I say the Indian mentality because I worked a lot on India, including on some IPPs there, and there's a peculiar Indian mentality that every investor is seen as the East India Company, that they've come here to rape us and loot us. No, you can't have that attitude. We need foreign investors. They're our partners, and without them, we cannot progress. So I think we need to have a change of mindset along those lines. I'm going to be very quick. I know that we're short for time. So let me just wrap up by saying that we need to have a policy around SEZs with the, which deals with the issues of how to repatriate profits, making sure people are paid profits on time. We need to build infrastructure around SEZs, which is renewable, and we have smart grids and parks and so on, storage facilities. Fortunately, there are large Chinese companies which we can partner with, Huawei for AI grid solutions, CATL for battery storage, etc. There are very large players out there in China with which we should be able to finance. For financing, we can, apart from the Chinese bond markets and Chinese institutions, there's AIB, there's the Silk Road Fund, and there's the GCF too. I don't think we should keep them out. And I think to build trust, we need to really focus on very proactively managing disputes. I'm a lawyer by training. I follow international arbitration. I'm a trained arbitrator and mediator. We need to have our own mechanisms in the contracts to manage disputes before they get blown out into ugly disputes before international forums. And I think those are some of the things which can help us to move towards success. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Hamid Saab. Very well noted points way forward. We need to transform this vicious cycle into a virtuous one. Reinvestments plus tax break, that could be a very good way forward. Maybe financial re-engineering, innovative instruments. And lastly, you mentioned that dispute resolution, that would be the key for Pakistan, particularly in terms of ensuring these G2G and B2B contracts, sovereign guarantees. We need to look forward to that as well. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. This is 10 minutes break for tea. Okay, 7 minutes break for tea, and we can back for the technical presentation. Thank you so much.
Bring your coffees back to the table and we'll sort of start in the next couple of minutes, please. Thank you. Uh, if dear colleagues, if I can again request आप लोग kindly, we have to start. We'll get late for the next session. If we can please request you to please join us at the round table, please. Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you, colleagues, for joining us back. We'll shortly be we're starting the next session. That is on the renewable energy transformation through private sector investments. And yeah, I believe we actually had a very good discussion more on the geopolitics side of the things. Perhaps with this, we'll be moving more closely towards what's actually happening, looking at the solar rush in Pakistan, how does that can be further incorporated, looking at into different technology side, how the South-South cooperation can actually be benefited a lot from this angle. So in this panel, we're very again pleased to have with us Mr. N.A. Zuberi, Senior Advisor, China Three Gorges South Asia Investment Limited. We are very pleased to have with us Dr. Peng Wang, the Deputy Director of Energy Strategy Research Center at Guangzhou Institute of Energy Conversion. We also have with us Mr. Zishan Ahmed, the former CEO of Sky Electric Private Limited, Mr. Basit Ghori, the Manager Special Initiatives in China Program at the Renewables First. And I believe at the very start, we'll also have quick agenda setting from Dr. Khalid. So if I can just request the MIS team to display the presentation, and Dr. Khalid, for your scene setting, it's over to you. And we do have, following this discussion, we will also have a specific space for the Q&A session as it goes. And also just to sort of pass on the news, we were to be joined by Mr. Faisal Sharif, but unfortunately, he actually had a very serious medical emergency at the homes due to which he couldn't join us. So we really hope to listen to him later on. But yeah, with this, Dr. Khalid, over to you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ubaid. I'm not going to take much time on it. Leveraging Pakistan-China partnership for green finance and energy transition. This is the landscape. Basically, Chinese bank financing different sort of energy portfolios in Pakistan. If you see Agriculture Bank of China, ABC, 100% investment into coal. And Chinese Commerce Ministry, 100% investment into renewables. Bank of Yangshu, 100% investments into renewables. Silk Road Fund, 100% investments into hydro side. So we need to sort of understand what is the financial approach, what is the financial strategy of China, particularly from the perspective of these banks, so that we can repurpose or start to transform Pakistan's energy portfolio and refinancing or financial re-engineering of these portfolios as well. What is happening in Pakistan, as we have discussed extensively, Shahjahan Mirza Saab also talked about it. We had this solar boom, we have this solar boom, and Pakistan's electricity generation, electricity demand is drastically coming down, which is causing Pakistan's, particularly the fossil fuel-based assets as stranded assets, and these stranded assets are going to cause Pakistan, particularly in terms of financial and economic turmoil. So we need to sort of think that how to bring more investments to link industrial growth with Pakistan's power sector. Again, when one portfolio or one investment project that become a stranded assets, it sort of resonates to all the other sector as well. For example, Pakistan's China power plants, particularly the imported coal power plants, they are suffering, becoming stranded assets. Now, the guarantee fee or the Sino-Shore fee of the Gwadar coal power plant has increased from 2.1 million rupee in 2018 to around 33 million rupee million dollars in 2024, which means there is more risk in Pakistan. There are multiple risks in Pakistan: security risk, financial risk, and now due to renegotiations of the PPAs and other sort of things, these fee of the guarantors will keep on increasing and will keep on increasing exponentially. So, which is not good for the investment climate. Maybe financial institutions from the both side, they need to come up with some sort of a tailor-made approach for renewable energy power projects as well as for the fossil fuel-based power projects. If we have a uniform policy or a blanket policy, financial policy or de-risking mechanisms for both types of the power plants, maybe we cannot tilt investments towards renewable energy. So we need to invest in a conducive market for renewables in Pakistan so that we can focus more on it. What can be the strategic restructuring and solutions? One can be maybe debt to climate swaps. We all know that there is a debt stress, particularly in terms of Chinese loans. So maybe these loans can be converted into debt for climate swaps or debt for nature swaps as well. Aligning CPEC and green finance, Pakistan CPEC phase 2, that can also focus on integrating people-centric as well as environmental-centric policies with financial policies so that we can have, again, this 3E solution for Pakistan's crisis. Second thing that we can do is there are multilateral banks that promote renewable energy transition, particularly from the point of view of Asian development banks in terms of energy transition mechanism. Maybe we can use that facility as well, or a tailor-made solution for early retirement of coal power plants using the Chinese financial architecture. But the communication line between these two financial institutions, that would be required to sort of have these innovative financial instruments that can generate the debate, and then we can implement these early retirement initiative. Another thing that most of us have highlighted, that we can use carbon credits, carbon markets as well. And these mechanisms can be used particularly in terms of coal to clean credit initiative, where the luxury of carbon market was being used to early retire one of the coal power plant in Philippines. Third thing that can be done is panda bonds. We all know that Finance Ministry of Pakistan working tirelessly on issuing Pakistan's first panda bond. Maybe panda bonds can be linked with sustainability initiatives that can generate more green finance, and we can use that finance to again for our energy transition. But one thing to keep in mind that right now there is no case of capacity expansion in Pakistan. We need to repurpose, retransform. Addition to capacity would not be economically feasible in Pakistan. So again, using these instruments. Lastly, private sector banking's role in finance Pakistan's energy transition. Maybe we can have a business case using these instruments, developing special purpose vehicles, maybe partial risk guarantees, so that the sovereign guarantee burden that is solely shared by the government of Pakistan, that can be evenly divided to multiple stakeholders. And again, using private sector funds, the regulators, State Bank of Pakistan and central banks of both the countries can work on developing currency hedging sort of a mechanism, which will provide the currency stress in the case of devaluation or financial or external deterioration, will provide some sort of a cushion for these investors to work and use their financings and investments in a more productive way. These were the few options for Pakistan using the financial instruments. Experts can debate more on it and how we can prioritize these instruments and how we can use these instruments in parallel so that we have this long-term investment-centric economy, energy, environment focused policies in Pakistan. So looking forward to a debate. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khalid, for setting the scene. And I believe this is exactly the way we need to sort of look into more focus towards the solutions. We have two situations on hand. One is exactly that we have to actually address the economic constraints. We have the challenges that the private sector is facing. And at the same time, how do we actually see the whole green financing landscape developing within the Pak-China collaboration? How do we actually see the great solar rush happening? So with this, we'll be moving towards our panel discussion. I've already introduced the panel, but what we'll be doing, we'll sort of starting with the private sector and what their views are. And from there, trickling down to the civil society, coming to Dr. Peng, and then opening the floor for the discussion. So again, very pleased to have with us Zubairi Saab. Zubairi Saab is currently, again, to introduce him, Senior Advisor at China Tree Gorgeous South Asia Investment Limited. And if I can request the MIS team to sort of share the slide deck that Zubairi Saab had. And Zubairi Saab, if you would like to sort of go first and set the scene on how China is actually enabling this energy transition in Pakistan, what areas they're looking at, and also emerging as one of the leaders. But also, Zubairi sir, one area where we might also sort of request you to respond a bit on would be how does the private sector actually sees this whole transition in areas they want to, even as of now, come into the whole energy sector debate in Pakistan. So with this, thank you so much again, sir, for joining. It's over to you.
Thank you. Let me first of all congratulate SDPI for this important conference. So let me first of all, Honorable Hamid Saab, Honorable Basit Saab, Zishan Saab, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I will be making a very brief presentation on how China enabled Pakistan energy transition. Please, next slides. Now, as you know, that China is a global leader in the renewable energy projects, and they are the driving largest clean energy transition. Up till now, by December 2024, total installed capacity of solar power projects is 890,000 megawatts, and wind power is 520,000 megawatts. Now, China, the target of China was 1,200,000 megawatts by 2030. They have achieved this target 6 years ahead of time. If you see on this map, China is the leader. It has 890 gigawatt hours of solar power in operation. And then US comes, it is only 120. So there is absolutely no comparison about the China in the renewable energy projects. They are the world leader in solar power generation. If you see the manufacturing, China is manufacturing around 1018 gigawatt of solar power panels per year. Then is USA, it is 23. So there is absolutely no comparison. China is really world leader in the manufacturing of solar capacity. As China is a global leader in energy transition, and they have also provided basically support to Saudi Arabia by providing 2,000 megawatt of solar power projects. They are empowering African green future by having a 30 green and clean energy projects of $50 billion. Chinese private companies are playing a pivotal role in Pakistan energy transition by investing in solar, wind, and hydropower projects. Now, if you see, at the moment, there are around 8903 megawatts of projects which are in operation under CPEC. All these greens show the wind, solar, and hydropower projects, which means out of 15 projects, there are 7 projects which are based on renewable energy technologies. There is another on the right-hand side, it shows the projects which are in a construction phase. Total installed capacity is around 4,000 megawatts, and out of these 7 projects, 5 are wind and solar and hydro projects. So the portfolio of CPEC is around 13,000 megawatts. Out of this, if you see that 4863 megawatts is renewable, which means the CPEC framework consists of 37% of the renewable energy projects. These projects are located throughout Pakistan. Hydels are obviously located in the north, and the wind are located in the basically Gharo and Jhimpir corridor, and Thar and coal-fired power projects are located in the south. Now, as you see that over 3464 megawatts of renewable power projects are developed by Chinese companies, and China Three Gorges is a lead in Pakistan in development of the renewable energy projects. So far, they have commissioned 4 projects. There are 3 renewables and 1 basically hydropower project. So CPEC project phase 1 has paved the way for the energy transition in Pakistan. As you see, the Third Belt and Road Forum and COP28 stressed the clean energy transition in tackling climate change. Under the umbrella of CPEC, there are around 8,000 megawatts of coal-fired power projects. out of which 4,000 megawatts are based on imported coal. Now, for a clean energy transition, there is a need to move from the imported coal to renewable energy projects, and we should work for the retirement of the coal-fired power projects based on imported coal. There, for early retirement, it is involving a cost, and it can be financed by JETB, Asian Development Bank, Energy Transition, and China Green Innovation Financing platforms. Now, everybody is talking about the CPEC 02. It is based on business to business framework. And the main focus is on setting up of specialized economic zones and relocation of Chinese industries in Pakistan. SEZs have been established, a lucrative incentives has been provided for the manufacturing of the industries. Investment in the manufacturing of solar panels presents an ideal opportunity for the reduction in the carbon footprints and generate revenues. CPEC special zones be powered by Chinese investors with clean energy solutions. In special economic zones, the manufacturing of solar panels, inverters, batteries be promoted with Chinese investors. Now, there is a solar boom in Pakistan for the last 3 years. The main reason is that the electricity prices, at the moment, they are very high. In the last 3 years, the tariff has been increased by 155%. Another driving force for this solar boom is the net metering policy. Net metering policy, everybody has talked about. It has a payback period of around 2 years, which is very lucrative. They allows installation of solar solutions to the capacity of 1.5 times the sanctioned load. As of September 2024, net metering on grid solar power station reached to more than 3,000 megawatts. Now, there is a sharp decline in the cost of the solar panels, and concession financing is available for the solar power projects. Now, the growth of the solar power has taken place in a residential area by rapidly increasing net metering based installations, in industrial sector by solar captive power plants, agriculture sector, solar power tube wells for irrigation, off-grid communities, standalone solar power projects. Now, China is a leader. Everybody has talked about it. 80 to 85% of the solar panels are manufactured in China. There is a steep fall in the solar power panels, which has dropped from 24 cents to 10 cents at the moment. Pakistan is a preferred destination for basically Chinese solar panels. Why? Because China is very close to Pakistan. There is overcapacity in China manufacturing. Number 3 is there are trade barriers, duties, and anti-dumping measures have been imposed by US, European Union, which has diverted Chinese exports to Pakistan. Pakistan, basically, energy transition is fueled by low-cost solar panels. In 2024, Pakistan imported 17 to 22,000 megawatts of solar panels, doubling from the previous year. Private sector is a key driver behind the rapid solar adoption. Chinese technology play a crucial role with the major players like Genco Solar, Longi, JA Solar, etc. Net metering policies have encouraged rooftop solar power solutions. Now, the conclusion is that China is leading Pakistan energy transition through strategic investment, technology transfer, and private sector engagement. Affordable Chinese solar panels and clean energy projects are fueling Pakistan's solar boom. Broader energy security, a strong China-Pakistan energy partnership is paving the way for a sustainable and resilient, prosperous future. With this, I thank you a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Zubair, for giving a very good highlight on how China is actually sort of supporting not just perhaps Pakistan, but also the overall renewable energy supply chain across the world. But at the same time, with this, I'll come to Zishan Ahmed Saab, the former CEO of Sky Electric, and also one of the very key experts in the whole solar PV. Zishan Saab, I mean, looking at it, I mean, definitely, Zubair Saab has very rightly highlighted the very important role which has been played. But definitely, when we actually look at the whole, we fully understand that there have been challenges for the any investor in Pakistan as well. It's not again as simple as it is. But now looking at that again, this transition, when we talk about solar rush or the unprecedented solar growth in Pakistan, that has not just been again a lot has come in from the communities. The communities had played the key enabling role in driving the whole transition as well. I mean, that's where basically the financing is coming from. So, I mean, given the solar surge in solar imports and China's dominance in low cost PV manufacturing, how do you think I mean, the companies beyond just the G2G ones, how can the companies, even such as like Sky Electric, how can they drive localized innovation and build resilience in Pakistan's solar value chain while sort of maintaining affordability for the end consumers as well? And perhaps the second part of the question would be that, I mean, with this, one thing is very clear is that we are now looking more towards decentralized systems than going, just like even Dr. Khalid mentioned, many of the people have mentioned, and going back to the utility scale. So what do you see us, if we talk about the distributed scale, what some of the potential regulatory, financial, or technological enablers should be there that should be in place before this transition can happen? So yeah, with this, over to you, Zishan sir.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. As a caveat, I represent the business end of the spectrum. So my conversations will be a little different. It's going to be pretty tough to carry on from where Zabari Saab left, but I'm going to try and do my best. So let's put a few facts first. Pakistan is one of the few countries that has 340 solar days. What that means is essentially there is sunlight available to make energy for 95% of the time of the year, right? The other thing that I want to talk about is that this 22 megawatt that keeps getting quoted extensively, and I'm sorry, I'm going to be very black and white with my answer, is not a correct number, right? And if the forum wants to know why, I can answer that question. Is because there is a big play of under invoicing, and inverters and batteries have also been imported under the guise of panels because there's no duty at play. So this number is definitely a lot lower than what is stated. Nevertheless, there is a boom, right? Why is there a boom? As the esteemed guests before me have said, electricity is excessively expensive, right? China, within its own price wars, was lowering costs, and Pakistan became a feasible market for two reasons. One, we were close by, and secondly, unfortunately, we all follow what I call the herd mentality. One investor makes a little bit of money, and then everyone follows suit. I'll give you an example. The largest importer in March this year of solar panels was the Rice Association of Pakistan. क्या काम है Rice Association of Pakistan का 200 solar panel के container मंगाने का? Well, very simple answer: profit, right? So the solar boom that we're facing is primarily because a lot of investment went into it and actually made us the #1 importer globally. So what happened was we have a lot of panels on ground and at a very cheap price, and they started getting onto rooftop solars. This is now where my opinions go left of center. I am all for rooftop solar distribution. We've just launched recently into Japan, and the leaders in the industry are Japan, Germany, and Hawaii in that order. The problems we are facing today is exactly what these three countries went through. So what we need to do is support rooftop solar, incentivize battery storage at a residential level. Another number I want to throw in, which I forgot to tell in the beginning. Do you know the estimated cost of upgrading our grid? Does anybody in the room have an idea? So the most quoted number is $30 billion. This grid, in my opinion, is dead. It is done for, and the future belongs to decentralized rooftop solar systems, but not on-grid solar systems. I, from the industry, actively have been lobbying against on-grid solar systems. They don't belong in this country. They shouldn't be there, and we shouldn't have a net metering policy. What we do need is a battery incentivization policy. Let me give you an example of Hawaii. If you pick up a 10 kilowatt battery for your home in Hawaii, you get up to $7,000 tax break for the year, right? So you're essentially taking consumers off the grid, turning them into their own small mini IPPs who produce during the day, store, and then export back during the night. That's the way where the world is going, and that's the way we should be working on our policies. The other thing that I want to talk about is that I don't think we need to over-regulate this industry. What this industry needs is smart deregulation. And the last point that I want to add, we're looking at this problem from a very traditional angle, right? Let's assemble panels in the country. Let's make inverters in the country. But what we've done in Sky Electric was we went on the AI side of the spectrum. We created softwares that the Chinese are now buying back from us to integrate into their inverters. So as much as there's a hardware play, there's also a software play in there that no one is keeping a keen eye on. So that's my 2 cents on the matter, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. Zishan Saab, will come back to you with a follow-up question, but at the moment, let me come to Basit from the Renewables First. Basit, again, what Zishan Saab has mentioned is, again, some of the changes that have been happening. But again, in your perspective, perhaps a two-part question, that how do you see what have been some of these macroeconomic or regulatory or infrastructural enables that actually catalyze the whole solar rush that we're actually talking about? And again, how does this sort of phenomena reflect the evolving dynamics of Pakistan-China cooperation under the BRI, or even if looking at a bit broader at the South-South cooperation? Perhaps the second question, which we also sort of discussed with you, is how this solar uptake impact the energy dynamics and investment priorities of CPEC 2.0. So with this, coming to you, Basit. Thank you.
Thank you. And do you want me to answer both of them together?
No, you can respond to the first, and then we'll have the second round as well. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, it's good to have this conference, and thank you first of all. So I think enough has been said by Javeri Saab and also Zishan Saab. I'll just pick up from there and try to look at from a little bit on the global perspective what it means, because while there are domestic issues, as Zishan Saab mentioned, grid not being capable to handle this kind of distributed solar, but what is it that Pakistan is essentially being looked at from in global peers of countries? So I'll try to shed a little bit lens on that. So let me just start off by going back 1 year, probably at this same time. All of us knew that solar was paving way. We were seeing solarization, urban and rural settings, but the quantum itself and the scale which it was being deployed, that was not anything that most of the experts, including us, realized that it was happening. And up until I think back in July and August, that was the first time that Chinese export numbers to different countries were quoted, that we realized that, okay, 16 gigawatt in one particular year, Pakistan has imported. And of course, Zishan Saab mentioned there are some discrepancies about the accuracy of the number, but nevertheless, that's the number that was quoted by this. And that kind of like drove us to a lot of, the think tanks, the energy transition mindsets to kind of trickle down into what this number means. In case of Pakistan, this represents almost 1/3 of the generation capacity at the national grid, right? And if you take into account the solar imports that have happened up till last month in like 1 year and 9 months, the total quantum quoted again with the disclaimer about the accuracy is around 28 gigawatts. So what does that mean? Even if you include all shaving off all the uncertainties, that's more than half of our national generation capacity. Now, this is a huge quantum for a country like Pakistan. And when you convert it into financial numbers, so that 16 gigawatt is equivalent to 2.1 billion US dollars of cash outflows. And at the time we were in the IMF package of 3 billion, for which we have to do a lot of hook and cook stuff and a lot of strings attached to that kind of money. But at the same time, we were mobilizing all of this domestic capital across the country. Yeah, $2.1 billion is the overall cost for 16 gigawatt. Of course, under and invoicing can be different. But we did a lot of research, and we had a consultations with Solar Association members about the exact number. We did not feel like that's too much at hand that you would say that half of it, maybe 8 gigawatt is imported, because essentially it keeps on going as we talk about right now. But coming back to the point, this is a big number for Pakistan. That's what raised the ears for most of the, the energy transition, the climate change visionaries out there in the developing economies. Because, this is something that they've always dreamed of. And that is not a case study that has ever happened at this scale. We have seen something similar happening in South Africa, but not at this scale, not at this pace. So for the first time, Pakistan was out there at the map, in the news for the World Economic Forum, in the news for the Bloomberg, that, okay, this is a country out of nowhere that was 30th among the overall generation capacity within the country, and now is, based on last month, is the second most largest destination for solar PV imports. So it's a big, big number for Pakistan. And that gives us a lot of opportunities as well about how do we sell this whole transition along with its risk, and how do we manage that? So that's the first thing we need to realize the significance of it. Second, the most interesting aspect is when Zubairi Sahab already talked about this, is none of this went to the utility scale, right? At the same time these imports were happening, we had unsuccessful attempts for the solar auction happening, at the Muzaffargarh. So you do realize that this is all happening under distributed generation. Private capital is mobilized. There is no policy target by the government to import these many panels. Yet this is done purely on the market economics. Market makes sense. Yet driven by the tariff increase that Zubairi Sahab was talking about. So in a nutshell, what we do realize is that if you allow the market right now to pave the way, solar and renewables win the race. Now, coming over to, the last thing that I wanted to mention was, around what it means for Pakistan and China. Definitely more than 99% of these imported panel shares is from China based on the Pakistan Bureau of Statistics numbers. And that has been the major driver of it. But we do have to realize when we are discussing all this, CPEC 1.0, this completely change in the landscape that has happened across past 1 or 2 years, the needs of Pakistan has completely changed. We don't need generation projects, mega scale projects, if I can say right now. That is not a need, because if I go to my generation planning exercise, it optimizes only 85 megawatts of new additional capacity, right? So it's not allowing me to add any more capacity, yet I know that my consumers are trying to get cheaper green electrons. So our needs are not the generation, they go beyond that. So what our needs are as part of Pakistan, and that should define what CPEC 2.0 should look like. Number one, the grid. I agree with Zishan Sahab in a way that yes, the grid has failed, it's dead, but it's never vanishes. It's always as a last resort, should be there and would be there, specifically, in the areas. And one way that we could realize that is by introducing the storage and flexibility within our grid systems. And that's where, the likes of China, who have been forefront in the, grid strengthening part, and along with all the peer countries like Australia, who have had much higher share of VRE integration, we can take a lot of lessons around it. So that's one part of cooperation that we need to look into. Second part of cooperation, I think we have highlighted quite enough around technology transfer. Not just thinking beyond putting a panel in Pakistan, but thinking beyond that, the ancillary equipment, the services, the batteries, because after this solar rush, what we're going to see is a battery rush potentially, right? Do we want to stay dependent on the imported batteries or not? Certainly there are local initiatives coming up and we need to support into that. So putting those cooperation into that area. Third, I think one of the things that oftentimes we don't realize, for China, because we are talking about all the capital and all the state-to-state investments coming in. It's one of the biggest private green capital hub in the world, right? They spend around $818 billion in energy transitions globally. They lead it from US and any other country by far. So how do we get access to that private capital? That should be our focus. We need to look beyond this state to state, because, state to state projects were good as much as we envisioned them to be based on, mega generational projects. But now you're talking about much more supporting the ecosystem. So that's where the third area we should look for, that how do we strengthen our existing financial ecosystem to allow us to get access to that private capital across the border, whether it includes getting a green taxonomy that State Bank working on and then putting up the numbers out there, because that's the first thing that an investor needs is visibility, who's working in the green capital, and then working on, okay, what are the co-investment models that we could potentially work with. Lastly, I'll just finish my point. Now, on a broader level, what it means for Pakistan and China in terms of CPEC 2.0 that you asked. For Pakistan, we need to realize that we need to think beyond this conventional, as Mustafa was previously mentioning as well, conventional mindset of luxurious mega project. And we need to think CPEC not in terms of foreign investments. We need to start thinking of CPEC in terms of strategic cooperation. Where do we leverage them? Doesn't matter how much financial inflows are coming in, it should matter what they are helping us achieve. For the China side also, there's something that we need to realize. While they have a lot of challenges that have happened, but with the US exit from the Paris Agreement, in China, there's a vacuum and there's expectations from the global climate change peers that they may be able to take that position. But you have to realize that to take that position, you can't lead both in fossils and in renewables. And that's a message that needs to be conveyed very clearly as well. That if you really want to lead, you have to put your all eggs in one basket, and that's for the renewables. And that's the pivot that essentially is China also leading towards, and we can help convey that message.
Perfect. Thank you. Wonderful, wonderful interventions, Basit. Yes. So I believe it's time, taking lead from what Basit has mentioned around the technology transfer. Professor Dr. Peng, hope you have this.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you. So yes, thank you, Dr. Peng. Before coming to you, let me sort of raise the question that, a lot has been discussed about the technology transfer here as well. So given China's global leadership in the technology, renewable energy technology that we talked about, Zubairi Saab mentioned that, Zishan Saab as well as Basit highlighted that, how do you see emerging innovations, particularly in solar PV? Pakistan is about to see the battery rush as well. So how do you see the innovations in these spaces shaping the next phase of energy transition of strategies of China, not just only in Pakistan, but perhaps overall global South as well? So with this, over to you, Dr. Peng. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yubit. Yeah. Yeah, are you clear? Okay. I just share my experience. Because now I'm still has an investigation on a company. There my honor experts and different visitors. It's my honor to have talking and give you maybe my opinion on this. Because I come from Chinese Academy of Science, our research center is it's energy strategy and carbon asset center. We help the government to do some energy plan and technology technology transfer, and still help plan some like an industrial park, low carbon industrial park and green industrial park. So based on this topic, how China and Pakistan together to develop like a cooperation on this on how to reduce the energy transition. I think I have three opinion on this. First, I think from the technology opinion, from the technology transfer opinion, I think that I have an example like a Shenzhen city. Like in the last 10 years, Shenzhen city has developed the new energy industry. This GDP of new energy industry has accounted for 15% of GDP. Most industry are from like battery, like EV car and still the solar and wind energy industry. So we can see that this renewable energy industry has a big contribution, GDP contribution for the city and for some. I think so. That can be as the reference for Pakistan to develop their industry, and is example the manufacture and the different. I think different factories like this. Second, I think another cooperation or another very a big driver for the energy transition is how we building or construction some mechanism between us, between China and Pakistan. For example, if like the two countries can building the carbon market between each other, or like our research, like the meeting has proposed the green finance and green debt in Pakistan is especially for the climate change finance, and through this green debt and based on the bank, we can finance. We can get more money from the world or from China, a different bank. So how we building this market mechanism? Market mechanism through the carbon market or through the power market, that's all can push more renewable energy consumption and more demand in the future. We can know that in the future, the power demand will be increased in Pakistan, and certainly some like the data center and some like a new manufacturer will be developed in Pakistan. So that's all will electricity or power demanding. So this will can be satisfied or supplied by the renewable energy. But how we building combine the renewable energy or power market and the carbon market together to make more access this renewable energy? I think that can be combined with the renewable energy investment, and more investment on the renewable energy consumption in this the original power market. The second is my advice on the policy. Because we are instituted as a think tank for the government, and every 5 years the government will make the policy target, especially for how we predict the energy demand, and how we citing the energy renewable energy capacity target, and how for this target will be realized by the different company, maybe the Pakistan company, or maybe this the different maybe foreigner company. So if this policy will be implemented in the government, I think that will certainly will attract more investment and more like other finance, and or different. I think different finance will enter into this market, and that will help more new opportunities in here. Like the last, I will say that now I'm working, and now I'm still serving on a company located in China, but it is a Korean South Korean company, and this company operating on the electronic industry. But this company, we will help them to building the solar panel on the rooftop and still building the battery storage for him, because they want to, because their product will export to the Europe, and they need to get more green electricity. So that's our job, to help this company to investment this, like get investment in this factory, to help this to complete this green electricity target. So you can see the background of me is the Korean company. The name is LG Electronic Factory, and this electronic factory product will export the product to the Europe. So they need to get the green electricity and the green certificate. So that's still another driver to investment in renewable energy, and more like I think more investment on this factory. That's all. That's my sharing my experience. Sorry for maybe not very exactly answer this question, but we hope for more discussion with you. Thank you, Dr.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Peng, for your interventions, as well as giving us a view of the facility here there as well. Yes. So I believe Dr. Peng has highlighted, and I believe after we'll be coming to the questions and responses or comments from the participants present over here and experts present over here as well. But I believe the key points that Dr. Peng has also made is a very strong linkage with this solar renewable energy industry growth with the GDP, even for on the sub-regional level as well. And also, thank you so much, Dr. Peng, for highlighted some of the green financing and instruments that you believe could be, again, extremely relevant of get the money and finance flowing in. Lastly, the point around the magnesium and the policy side of the things as well. We'll definitely come back to you for any questions that we have. So before we go to while we go with the next round of speakers, if you have any questions, comments, anyone wants from the panel present over here? Yes, please. And if you can also sort of, be a bit brief, and also let us know which speaker you would like to sort of respond to, would like to respond to your question.
Hi, my name is Umar. I'm working as a research associate from SPEC. So my question is from Dr. Peng. Since we know that battery energy source systems are capable for spinning reserves and intermittency, solve the intermittency issues. So my question is, what are the investment opportunities that Pakistan can do for the optimum siting and sizing for battery energy source systems? Because we know that battery optimum siting and sizing are very much important for a system to get flexibility and integrity. So what do you suggest for this kind? Thank you.
Sure. Perhaps before coming to Dr. Peng, we'll take a couple of questions and then go to, if we I believe you also had another question. Yes, please.
Firstly, thank you to all the panelists for great insights. I have two short questions. Firstly, what immediate steps Pakistan can take to boost the investor confidence for short term? And secondly, I would like to know what's the possibility of using the sustainability linked bonds or panda bonds for debt restructuring?
Thank you, Zainab. I believe the first one we can let Zubairi Sab respond, and then Dr. Peng will come in shortly. Yes,
Thank
please.
you. Let me address your first question. Most important thing is, at the moment, there are a lot of Chinese companies operating in Pakistan. Their projects are there. Some of the companies are developing the projects. First of all, we should address the concerns of the companies. Main concern is that there is a frequent changes in the policies, which has serious financial implications. Chinese companies or private sector moves very fast, and government takes centuries to take a decision. That gives a negative signal to all investors. So first of all, we should put our house in order. Then we should encourage private sector to come.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. And also, before coming again, Dr. Peng, I will just be coming to you, but I believe, Zishan Sab, there is also a question we have received online through Zoom, which sort of states that, again, from your experience, how can we actually strengthen the governance frameworks to ensure that the solar not only accelerates energy access but also sort of promotes quality standards, safeguards, and a long-term system resilience as well? So yeah,
This one's for me.
it doesn't mention, but
So I think the quality standards are more or less global that we follow, right? So there's no change in that. Short answer to that one is there. What was the other part of the question? Can you just repeat it for me, please?
basically about the quality standards and long-term system resilience. Yeah.
Well, quality standards as such are the same that are just accepted globally. I don't think there's any innovation that is needed in hardware at this point, right? It's accepted, it's exported. There's not much to answer in this question, unfortunately, right? We just follow what the world is doing and we just keep up to it. The thing that I can add to this is that at this point in time, it is cheaper to follow those quality standards at cost from Pakistan than it is with China, right? So it is actually a lot cheaper to do it here than it is now to do it in China.
Yeah, perfect. And if Basit, you would like to respond to them, and Zainab, can you shortly repeat the question you had around the bonds or the financing instrument if you mentioned, and if
It's okay. I get the question around the sustainability linked bonds. So yes, we can get access to it, but I think I would take a step back. We have to first realize what are the kind of projects that we are taking to, get listed for the Panda bonds. If we have to get a finance like our motorways through the Panda bonds, that's a very different debate. So I'll first, focus on the quality of the project's portfolio that you are taking there. In order to get it, listed on the other side. The second is I think the government has already announced the first set of Panda bonds probably in a couple of months that they will be listing out there. So I think we already do have an access to it. The place where we do lack is the lack of visibility. So firstly, we need to identify in terms of the energy transition landscape, we need to identify what are the key opportunities here in Pakistan when we are talking about something that are bankable projects, because generational projects are not no more, at least at the very least right now, are not a bankable project. So what are those? Whether it's putting up a new industry within an SEZ, whether it's something else. So I think that visibility needs to be enhanced. And to enhance that visibility, we also need to identify our parities right. Because as much as I see right now, we don't have clear-cut parities set forth or the strategic priority sectors defined as of yet where we want the investments to come in. So I think those are the couple of things that we have to do. Rest, getting access to the market when you put up a bankable solution out there, the finance and the investor comes in. That's a secondary part. Just a short answer.
Sure. Thank you. Yes, Dr. Peng, over to you.
Sorry, you're bit. Dr. Yobid, can you help me to repeat his question?
Yeah, sure. Omar, if you can just very briefly repeat the question.
So I want to explain that what are the optimum siting and sizing locations for the optimum investment in Pakistan? What Chinese mechanisms currently in doing in their mechanisms? What are the policy implications? What are the technical implications for optimum siting and sizing of the best battery energy sources?
Yes, and if Dr. Peng, if you want to sort of respond, we fully understand that you might not have a very, for the citations point, have a very exact perspective on the Pakistan's end, but if you want to sort of respond to it a bit generic, that would be okay as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Actually, really, I really not maybe not total understand what's your questions. But from my understanding, I think, yes, through this discussion and through this conference, I learned a lot. I think a lot of information, and I think fresh my knowledge about Pakistan on the energy transition and and especially some policy or some implementation on this. On this. So just based on my understanding and my experience, I think from my because I think not last month on the March, I have been visited to Pakistan, the Maharan University as a visitor in here, in there. So I think I have still talk with my friends. They have business in Pakistan, like another professor said, Chinese private companies has very fast, and they has investment a lot of like solar panel or batteries on Pakistan, but I think maybe there's still many difficulties or many different national situations between China and Pakistan. I think if the scholars or researchers can together to making some unified standard, or maybe some technology standard, or maybe some design, and I think maybe like the different the grade between China and Pakistan, some grade access standard is different, and still I think many technology standard will different. So maybe next 5 years or next in the future, if the scholars, the investors, or the Chinese investors, they can based on some mechanism or some institution can together to make some unified standard or some, I think, some technical guidelines. That's all very helpful to investment, and more. I think more. Now in China, I know that the renewable energy market is very competitive, and most private company or some state-owned company, they all want to go abroad or want to go overseas to investment. So if if Pakistan can create more market, that's really helpful. That's my understanding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Peng. So if do we have any question? Because we do have one question online, sir, just coming to you. Before I'll first read the online question and then come to you. And it's surprisingly, Sir Hamid Sharif, it's the question reads, do you see the need to bring in policy advisory in person from China to help with the governance and regulation to ensure better policy drive? And it also sort of mentioned that if it would be very kind, if it's possible for Hamid Sharif Saab to respond to this. This question has been received from Shakib Ilahi Saab. So if you would like to sort of respond to any of this point. Yes. Yeah.
If I get the question, you're saying that do we need to get Chinese expertise to improve our governance?
Do we need to bring in policy advisory in person from China to help with the governance and regulations to ensure better policy drive?
The right way.
No. I think, sustainable governance solutions are always indigenous. China, to its credit, doesn't want to export its model, unlike our Western friends who do want to export their models of rule of law and democracy. China explicitly says it doesn't want to do that, but China is very much willing to share its experience, and if we want to draw lessons from that, we can. So in that spirit, I think we should engage with China to see what has worked for China, and then see if it can work for us. But at the end of the day, governance solutions will have to be our own. While I have the mic, I wanted to ask some questions as well. I have a question to Dr. Pang. Dr. Pang, given that recently the Europeans met, I think about 3 days ago in London, and they explicitly said that while they will go and promote renewable energy, they will not buy Chinese panels because of concerns about use of slavery and forced labor, particularly in Xinjiang. I know that controversy because it's played out already in the multilateral development banks. But my question was more about what do you think will be the impact on the costs? Do you think that we can see the costs come down even further and quite significantly because of this boycott by the Europeans? My second question to my Pakistani friends is to what extent was this 2.1 billion imports which we saw? Of course, it's related to the high cost of electricity here and the cheaper panels. But to what extent did the government also help in dropping custom duties? And I know that in 2021 it did. After that, there was no further. Okay, that's because, you know, through the grapevine, one hears that this might have been done to favor particular politically importers, right? I mean, I'm not going to name anybody. And my last question is that panels are still, in a way, untested technology in terms of their life. Often these long gestation projects look at 20-year financing, 25-year financing. Do we know that the panels will last that long? And lastly, at the end of the 25, if Pakistan is importing so many panels, will import even more. What do we do from an environmental perspective with all these panels? It's going to be a huge problem. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much. I believe if we can have the second question responded first, and Dr. Peng, in the meanwhile, you can sort of think of the response to the first question as well.
So
Yeah.
going backwards on that one, sir, the recycling industry and the renewable sector, as of today, is about a $20 billion sector. In 5 years, is expected to hit $70 billion. There are only 3 components that contribute to this sector. The largest is turbine blades from wind, because they're carbon fiber and fiberglass. So they have a particular way of getting them offset. The second is inverters and then panels. Inverters and panels, by that much. So this problem of doing what to do with these when they come into life is actually going to spin off a whole new industry for us, right? The sad part is that we're not gearing up to it as of now, because to spin it off, we need to meet certain compliances, certain standards to be able to extract the glass, the silicon, and then have it, even the frame. So we're not ready for it, but the world is ready for it. And I think it'll just start a whole new industry. And like with most things I've seen in my life, we'll scramble at the end trying to catch up very, very quickly. The end of life of a panel is about 25 years, average, give or take, in the A category. And because I've been with a company that monitors its panels religiously on the hour, we use a lot of AI when it comes down to. So one very basic form of AI that we use is a solar bell curve. So we know exactly what the sunlight looks like at that particular point on the map, and how much energy the sun is producing versus how much the panel is producing. So we not only look at the life in number of years, but the productive life in number of years. So far, the claims and the performance is neck and neck. So I'm hoping that it eventually does. So I hope I've answered that part of the question.
Yes, and if any of the speakers wants to respond to any of the other parts of the questions, please. Yeah, sure, please. Please go ahead. I believe it's definitely going to be difficult for Professor Pong to respond. So please go ahead if you want to highlight any point. Yeah. So coming to Dr. Peng. Dr. Peng, would you like to sort of respond to the first part of the question?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thanks for your question. I want to confirm that professor's question. I just understand the part of that. First, I think for yeah, maybe you mentioned about the the trading conflict between China and Europe. But I think that's sometimes that's product maybe from the CBAM, or I'm not very clear about your question about the labor force, or what's the meaning of this? Can you more clear? Sorry, Professor.
Dr. Pang, there's been a long debate, and it's been going on for about 3 years. For example, IFC, the International Finance Corporation, the AEDB, and the World Bank, and other MDBs have had a working group which is looking at use of forced labor in the production of panels. Because of that, many of the European shareholders at these MDBs have been vetoing use of their money to buy Chinese panels. And recently there was a meeting in London where the Europeans again said that while they will continue renewables, but they will not be encouraging. In fact, Britain has a particular scheme. And under the British government finance scheme, the government has decided that they will not use public money to buy solar panels from China. And my question was not to go into this controversy because I'm familiar with it. There are pros and cons, and I don't necessarily agree with it. But my question was simply to you, what do you think will be the impact on the price of panels if the Europeans continue to boycott or spread the boycott of Chinese panels?
Okay, thanks for your question. Actually, I still not know, or I still until now I still not hear this news or these problems. Actually, in China, I think different industry, their purpose is to create the wealth and eradicate the poor. Especially eradicate the poverty. You know that in China, the per capita GDP is, I think the per capita GDP is $10,000. Yeah, I think through $100 or $1,000 to $10,000, every country will pass through the urbanization and the industrialization. Through this modernization, every person in different country will get more wealth and will get more money, and their living standard will improve. So that's my understanding why we develop the economy and why we develop the industry and why we create more jobs. So from my opinion, I think it's like the solar panel or different renewable energy industry. Why we develop this industry, that can change our life. That can improve our living standard. And like you, I don't know how this news that before I have heard that some rumor or some some false truth, some false news about that. In Xinjiang province, some clothes will manufactured by some some cheap labor force, but that's true. Is the rumor, and it's true. Is not the real yeah, not real. So. I think that yeah, that's different company, or they will investment in the different countries. They will through this they will provide more working opportunities. That can help change this like a living environment. And still, I think that like in China, investment maybe as cooperation in Africa and in the different global world, they all like certainly they will their investment will accord the local areas environment standard and still some labor standard, and I think that's not only a political problem, but it is still it must obey the law to do this investment and to build the factory and to do this. And still, I think for China's company, when they do investment and they build the factory, they still need their action or their behavior need confront or need to obey this local habit and the local
Yes, exactly.
culture.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
So I
Dr.
think,
Penn.
yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so
Okay.
much for responding. I believe we just have 1 minute and we'd like to sort of close the session. And but I believe Dr. Basharat, if you would like to sort of, please quickly.
Yeah, since you just have 1 minute for me, so I'll just introduce myself. I am Dr. Basharat Hassan. I was Director General at Alternative Energy Development Board. The policy, Renewable Energy Policy 2006 was prepared under my supervision, and 2013 policy was prepared by me. The Act for Alternative Energy Development Board was prepared by me. And when you have more time, then I can be, asking
We
more
can
questions.
listen to you in the next whole session as well. So if we don't have, we would like to sort of first of all again thank you so much to all the panelists for again the initial interventions and also for very responding to some of the very tricky questions during the discussion as well. We'll definitely make sure to sort of frame these into sort of a policy advisory that can be taken up, especially while we are sort of also running a couple of the government-led advisory committees and how these actions can actually be taken up over there as well. So before coming to the next session, we would like, definitely, please do join us. We'll start the next one. Definitely, there will be a 15-minute delay. We'll be starting the next session at 2:15. We'll be going on to the lunch break. It's in the, if the colleagues can guide us, it's in the sky, in the restaurant on the upper floor. So once again, thank you so much, and a round of an applause for the panelists for their wonderful interventions and extremely useful recommendations for the suggestion session as well. So thank you so much, everyone.